let's talk about the event marketer, right? Our listener,
Mhm.
what has changed in her world?
Well, there's a her and him.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of hers
We
there.
can do
Yes.
both.
I would say one of the biggest things is it's strategy and approach versus just execution, right? They're being asked to do stuff more, not asked, they have to
Mhm.
do stuff more intentionally. They have to be more strategic. It's two pieces. Just executing almost becomes no longer enough anymore,
Mhm.
right? It is, what is the thought behind this? Who is the audience? What is the experience? All the stuff we've been talking about.
Mhm.
I think it's just so important and so meaningful in that space. I think that strategy, approach, intentionality goes into portfolio planning and
Mhm.
tiering your
Mhm.
events, right?
Okay.
Which ones get what budget, which ones get which approach. There's so much detail that goes in. I think that is the big thing for me that I see changing for event marketers or corporate event marketers.
Yeah, and this is why we start with like the event environment first, right? Because that sounds like that is expectations of them based on the ecosystem and how
Mhm.
it's changed, right? If the company owner is wondering, man, I'm spending a lot on events, is it really worth it? That's going to channel down to the event marketer, and now everybody knows that they have multiple options. So you're going to have to be able to. You said it right, like you said this idea of you got to be able to get stakeholder buy-in is a
Yep.
skill set that you have to have. Tell me more about that.
So I think for very high level event marketers that are dealing with the executive level teams, they have to build a business case. That's what I'm hearing over and over. That's what the discussions are about, the questions that they're asking, the things that they need. Everything is about building a business case to go to executives and say, look, this is pushing forward our business objectives. This is pushing forward our goals. Here's how. Here's the metrics. Here's the qualitative and here's the quantitative data. You need both, right? So you're building a business case. And I think, man, overall, that is how you get buy-in. When you have buy-in, you get more room to work, and then you get everybody on your same page, which I think opens up events to really being dangerous.
That feels like the underrated skill set that has popped up on this show a couple of times
Yeah.
now that people don't talk about, right? Like I remember talking about the difference between an event organizer and a marketer, but the idea of like investing in the skill set of how you sell upstream
Yes.
seems like a major thing to talk about.
So I think how you work laterally is
Mhm.
really, really important. How do you work with sales? How do you work with
Yeah.
marketing? How do you work with go to market? That's really, really important. You need to get them on your train, right?
Yeah.
You need salespeople for pre-show marketing. They need to understand the event, the purpose, the intention, what you're trying to achieve, how it benefits them. That's laterally. You're working across departments, right? Because you're in events. Events is events.
Yep.
You get marketing, you get sales, go to market. It depends how big the organization is. The next piece is working up to the executives. Do you have their buy-in or not? Because if you don't have their buy-in, it will always be difficult. It'll always be questioned. It will always be listening to subjective opinions of someone's like, these trade shows, this event doesn't do anything. Oh, it's a big spend. Oh, we're spending too much. Oh, it's like, those are great things to say, but they are disgustingly subjective.
Mhm.
Where is the information? Where is the data?
Mhm.
Right. And when you can get that buy-in by showing them hard numbers or even soft numbers, even numbers, it's not like, hey, we spent $1 million on this event and it's going to produce $1 million this year, and then the lifetime value becomes 10 and every year. But you know what I mean? Like there's getting that buy-in. It's presenting a business case. If you're talking to executives, they want a business case.
Mm.
So you're working both ways. You're working up to present a business case,
Yeah.
and you're working horizontally to get the support that you need and make it a team effort, because events is not just an event department. It's so many players
Yeah.
inside of it.
I like that you clarified that for me because it's not so it's stakeholder buy-in. Those are the people that you need to work alongside of. You have to be able to rally the troops to be able to execute all the things around the event that make what happens before and after the event successful.
Yes.
And then there is building a business case. That's the idea of, hey, person who cuts the check, I can show you why this is valuable to you and to the resources of our company. And you said something interesting to me that is kind of like, if you can do that, that's when you get to the reason why we all do this, which is ideas, experiences, creative. You want to say a little bit about that?
I just think that's when you get freed up. That's
Yeah.
when you're not worried about just executing. When executives have that buy-in, smart executives end up pouring into it. You know what I mean? And they give you more resources. They give you the tools. They give you the freedoms to go and operate the way that you want. Now, I think you should be doing those things no matter what, right? I mean, when you get that executive buy-in because you're built a business case for them, I think if you talk to 100 event marketers that are working for big corporate companies or even smaller corporate companies, the ones that have executive buy-in versus the ones that don't have executive buy-in, I think there's a big difference there. There's a delta in the way they feel, in the way they operate, in the freedoms in which they have.
Yeah. You know, freedom is such a big thing, right? Like this idea that you get to do the stuff that you want to do, not the stuff that you think
You get to take chances.
you get to take chances.
You get to take chances. And
Yeah.
events and marketing is all about chances, doing stuff different, doing it outside the box, right? And you don't get that. You get a lot of companies, they do the same thing every year. They'll use the same booth. No, we just want to reuse it. Oh, no, we're going to do it this way. This worked. And you get stalled in this same pattern.
Yep.
Right. Because you can't take a chance because you don't have a business case. And that means it's a cost of doing business. You're just spending because you don't spend more. You don't even know if you should spend less. You don't know because you haven't built any kind of business case.
But by bringing it back to that idea of cost of doing business versus strategy, it's kind of saying how this all compounds together, right? Because if on one side you're saying you got to treat every event different, and in order to have success, you got to do this. But if you're not able to build a business case and they're just saying, well, let's just do it the way we've always done it, you're setting yourself up to success. So you're either in like a downward spiral because you can't build a business case, or you're building a business case and now you get to really tailor things and take chances and do the stuff.
I think that business case comes down to people. People know when they're talking to somebody that has a grip on something. So if you're talking to your CMO or you're talking to your CEO and you're running the event program, if you're talking about your event program in a tiered portfolio, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and you're saying, this is why this is tier 1, this is why this is tier 3, this is why this gets deployed $50,000, this is why this gets deployed $1 million. This is why the approach here is we're sending 6 people. We're running a dinner. We have a 10 by 10. Only 2 of them are in the booth in the 10 by 10. The other 4 are running meetings at the hotel offsite. Hey, in the tier 3, in the $1 million spend, this is the team that goes. The CEO is there. Like, you're breaking it out to where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the answer that people come back to is, well, we've always done it this way. What executive wants to hear we've always done it this way. You know what I'm saying? So I think,
or employee wants to hear
and
that.
you probably have executives vice versa telling the event marketer, well, we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Right. So as the event marketer, be the one to shake the tree, be the one to build the business case, be the one to say, this is why we're tiering these events. Tiering your events, I guess we're going to get into that, which is essentially saying it's forcing you to categorize your events, right? It's forcing you to place an order of importance, order of size, order of budget allocation. It's forcing you to think about your approach. Your approach should not be the same for each one. Do you have the audience? I mean, we were talking with a potential customer the other day, and by diving into some of this stuff, some of the discussions are simple. Inside the booth, they don't get the ICP executive decision maker person that they want, but they do get the engineers, the people that influence, the people that are asking the questions and tinkering. And so the booth experience can't be built for the executives. It can be a smaller exhibit. It can be a smaller setup, enough to field the questions, do raffles, do giveaways, build some relationships, but big bucks got to be spent on the executives because they're at that show. They just don't go to the show floor. So they're offsite. So they run a crazy bomb ass dinner. Top notch. X hundred a plate, the whole thing, because that's where the business is done there. So that's what I mean by approach. What if they just blew all their money on a big booth, but there's no executives walking in? So that's the things. Those are the levels of discussion that you have to be having in order to execute properly.